welcome to this last couple weeks edition of the Week Ahead.
We hope.
Yeah, it's been, and I think that really speaks to how busy it's been over the last 2 weeks, and the fact that, particularly last week, so many committees were rushing to get their work done before the deadline of Friday, and a number of them still didn't make it, and there were bills that were referenced even today for public hearings this week. I think by most accounts, most bills, most committees will be done all their work, committee work, by Friday of this week. But it could bleed over into the following week too. Where the action's really at is the budget and appropriations.
Yeah, appropriations is working as we speak. They're over there caucusing, and I was told that potentially they might be talking a little bit of taxation this afternoon when they come out. But I could be here for a long time. So we don't know. I mean, it's all speculation at this point. When they're going to do the budget, some folks say they're close, but you never know. With this could drag on for 2 weeks.
Timing wise, though, they have to get it done in order to get it done by the end of July. So I mean, they have to pass something out in the next couple of weeks to hit that July 1 deadline, just for process wise. Right?
And I think really the only thing they have left is the tax reform.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is they want to try and get done by their statutory adjournment rate, which is the middle of next month. And so if they want to do that, they really need to push that budget out this week, by the end of this week. But at the same time, they're way behind with dealing with divided reports.
Sure.
They have bills, there were a number of articles over the weekend that talked about the fact that 40-50% of bills still lie in committee. Although I think the reality is the committees disposed of those bills. A lot of what they're waiting for is probably language reviews.
Language reviews,
Which it's pretty it's pretty cursory. Particularly if you have divided reports, like I know LCRED was looking at language today on probably 8 or 10 bills, but most of those were divided reports. So one side of the committee was already an ought not to pass, and the other side was ought to. So I'm not sure how much they're really going to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, taxation only had the technical changes bill today. That's it. That's all they worked. So I expect that today was going to be the last day.
And a lot of bills are dying between the bodies. Which is
that's
to be
another
expected.
thing too.
You have the Senate going ought not, and the House going ought to. It dies in what's known as non-concurrence. The two bodies can't concur on the outcome, the final disposition of the bill, so it dies there after it's been.
I think tax haven did. That's that bill. Is it still stuck in?
No, they debated that today, and I think
in the Senate.
I think it's likely that the Senate will say no. The House said yes. They'll bounce it back and forth one more time, and that'll be the end of it.
I think you're going to find, though, this week and then a little bit into next week, like with the Energy Committee, they're holding still a couple public hearings this week on the governor's bills. There's really not enough time to really work them or do anything, and they're going to end up carrying them over to the next session. And I think that's kind of where we're going to see a lot of disposition of these bills. At this point, if they haven't dealt with them, I mean, to go through the process, you're looking towards a carryover in committee or coming out pretty quickly onto the floor, and divided reports. It's a tough hill to climb at this point.
Yeah, if there's any synergy on a piece of legislation, and it's a complex piece of legislation, if there's any synergy on it at the committee level, then they will carry it over. But if they're looking at a piece of legislation and they already know half the committee's going to vote against it and the other half is going to vote for it, then they'll just make it down and dirty. They'll just have a work session and it'll be out the door and ready to debate. So, and that's what's happening now. That's what always happens at the end of the session.
So, could be a long week.
Well, I think for appropriations it will
be.
But it needs to be too.
Yeah, exactly. They have to get it done. That's the thing.
But I think for us, really, public hearings and testimony is pretty well done for the legislative session. We're pretty well done on that. So. Join us next week. We'll be more diligent in getting timely updates to you. Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of The Week Ahead.
Stay classy, man.